As promised, I told you I would make a video of these last three methods of factoring. So we're going to start off with we're going to continue with the simple trinomials. This really is, how do you say that? A trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1. Okay. If you recall, trinomial is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. And in order to do these, take you back to, I believe you learned this in Algebra 1. We have that x bar method. So we have a times c over b. Logical question, what is a, b, and c? Well, looking at the quadratic equation, a is a coefficient, number in front of x squared. B is a coefficient in front of x. C is the number all by itself. All right, so we need to, when we start this, we will actually write out what a, b, and c are so that we can multiply. Now, this is a trinomial, meaning 3-term, trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1. So a equals to 1. All right. So let's look at some problems. I want you to write a little note over here to show your x method or your x bar. Okay. So we've got another sheet of paper. So let's do x squared minus 5x plus 6. We are going to do that's A9 on your paper. Hopefully you're following along with me because you do have to turn this in, and it is a grade. So let's see, x squared minus 5x plus 6. And for A9, that's one we just did, we come over and look over here where it says answers. And let's see if we can find that. We said that was x minus 2 times x minus 3. Now you realize x minus 3 times x minus 2. It's the same thing as x minus 2, x minus 3. And I'm looking right here. So over here, I could just write in A9. A9. All right. Let's look for x squared minus 11x plus 24. Okay, come over, do another. All right, we are doing x squared minus 11x plus 24. See if we can find that. X minus 3, x minus 8. All right, x minus 3, x minus 8. You see it anywhere? X minus 3, x plus 25. Nope. X plus 3, x minus 3, x. All right, here we go. Right here. So for number 6, I can write C5. Oops, let's do one you can see. C5. All right. And I'm going to write my A9 outside of here. A9. Okay. And then we're doing x squared minus 11x plus 28. So let's come back over to the page. Let's find that. So let's see where we're at. X minus 4, x minus 7. That's x minus 7, x plus 4. We don't want that. X minus 7, x minus 4. So I'm looking right here, and that was G5. So I'm going to write G5. All right. Okay. I've done 3 of them. That should be enough. Follow back. Look at the problems that we did. You should be able to work the rest of these out. All right. If you got questions, bring them back to me on Thursday. Let's go to our next, oops. we've got x squared minus 5x plus 6. So the first thing that we want to do, label A, B, and C. A, we said, I'll just write over here ax squared plus bx plus c. So A equals, we already know our leading coefficient is 1. So A is going to be 1. If there's no number in front of x, we assume that to be 1. B, that's the number in front of x by itself. That is a negative 5. Make sure you include that positive or that negative sign in front of the x. C is going to be 6. Okay, so let's draw our x factor tree. We have A times C. A is 1, C is 6. So anytime we are doing leading coefficient of 1, really that's just going to be the value of 6. Value of C. So we have 6, and B is a negative 5. I am looking for what two numbers can I multiply and get 6, but add and get negative 5. So let's come over here and write down our factors of 6. We have 1 and 6. We have 2 times 3. If you notice, from 2 to 3, there are no numbers between there. So we know that these are the only factors that we have. Which of these two numbers can I add up to get negative 5? Hopefully you said none. So listen carefully. Because this is a plus 6, I need to multiply two numbers to get a positive 6. Now, if I multiply two positive numbers, obviously I get a positive number. If I multiply two negative numbers, I also get a positive number. So I know, because I'm looking to add up to a negative 5, that both of these factors need to be negative. Now, which one of these adds up to a negative 5? Hopefully you said negative 2, negative 3. Okay, let me erase this just for a moment because I wrote it too close. All right, so I'm gonna write a little further out. I have 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and then I know that these both need to be negative. So these are my factors. I'm going to write a negative 2 here and a negative 3. Now I'm trying to find the factors, so really all I'm going to do is put an x out in front of those two factors. So when I come to factor this, I have x minus 2 times x minus 3. If we multiply those out using FOIL method, box method, you will end up with x squared minus 5x plus 6. Okay? Does everybody see what we're doing? All right, let's go back. Another one of these. I'm going to erase all of this. I'm going to leave this ax squared plus bx plus c. I'm going to leave that up in case we need to come back to that. So all of that has gone away. Oh, guess I erased everything. Wasn't trying to do that. What did we say our equation was? That's a good question. All right. X squared minus 11x plus 24. And I'm going to come back here and write ax squared plus bx plus c. And we still know that leading coefficient A is 1. Okay, let's write down what A is. A is 1, just like we showed there. B, the number in front of x is negative 11. So that tells us that I'm going to have two negative answers or factors. And then we know that C is a plus 24. Now this always has to be plus if we are, well, actually it doesn't always have to. I take that back. Okay, so this is positive 24. So we're going to draw our x factor tree. A times c, because our leading coefficient is 1. I'm looking for what two numbers multiply to give me 24, add up to give me a negative 11. Let's write down our factors of 24. We've got 1 and 24. We've got 2 and 12. You can use a calculator for this. 3 and 8. 4 and 6. And then the only number between 4 and 6 is 5. 5 does not factor in. These are all of my factors. Because that's a negative that we're trying to add up to, I know both of these factors need to be negative. Which one adds up to a negative 11? Now, hopefully you said negative 3, negative 8. So, negative 3, negative 8. I can put x in front of each of these, and I have my factors x minus 3 times x minus 8. All right, x minus 3, x minus 8. Let's go back. This time we're not going to erase our quadratic, so we'll do this the hard way. Okay, what did I say the equation was? X squared minus 11x. This time it's plus 28. All right, we know the leading coefficient of a is 1. So when I'm labeling my values, a equals 1. B, the number in front of x, is negative 11. Again, C, the number by itself, is 28. So I'm going to write my factors. Well, let's draw our table first. We got our x factor table. A times C, that is 28 in this case. I want it to add up to a negative 11. So what two numbers multiply and give us 28? Add and give us a negative 11. So once again, I know that these two values should be negative. Let's write down our factors of 28. We've got 1 and 28. We've got 2 and 14. 3 won't go into 28. 4 and 7. 5 won't go into 28. 6 won't go into 28. And we're back to 7. So we know we've got in all of our factors. And because that is a minus, that 11, we know that these values are all going to be negative, which two add up to a negative 11. All right, once again, hopefully you said negative 4, negative 7. So negative 4, negative 7. So I can put my x out front. Okay, so we come back. X minus 4, x minus 7. So go ahead and delete this. Get to our blank paper. That'll make it easier. So we got negative 2x y plus 10 minus x y squared plus 5y. Okay, 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what we're going to do, I am going to, because we call this grouping, I'm going to group these 4 terms into 2s. Make sure that you include the sign on that third term. Okay, so that negative there, or that minus sign, that is a part of that xy squared. Okay, if you don't do that, you're going to mess your problem up. What I'm going to do is split this into parts. Okay, so let's see. We are going to take negative 2xy and 10. We're going to find all of our factors. Okay, negative 2xy, that should be pretty easy. We have negative 2, x, and y. We didn't really change anything because there were really no factors. 10, we have the factors of 2 times 5. All right. Remember how we did the greatest common factor? What is my greatest common factor of negative 2xy and of 2 times 5? All right. It's just the 2's. All right. So I can rewrite this. If I factor out a 2, I now have 2 parentheses. If I factor out a 2, what do I have left? A negative xy. Okay, negative xy. And if I factor out a 2 from 10, I have a plus 5. All right, pretty straightforward. Very good. Now let's do the negative xy and 5y. Okay, so, negative xy squared. So what are my factors of, make that actually look like a y squared? Y squared. All right, what are my factors? I have a negative, I have an x, and that y raised to the second power, that tells me that I have 2 y's. Y, y. And for 5y, I have just literally 5 and y. What is my common factor? In this particular case, it's y. I have 1 y in both of these. So I'm going to factor out a plus y. If I factor out a y, what do I have left? I have the negative xy. If I factor out a y from 5y, I have plus 5. Okay? Now, notice I went from 4 terms, now I have 2 terms. Here's my first term, here's my second term. But more importantly, what do I have common in these 2 terms? I have that negative xy plus 5 and that negative xy plus 5. Okay, so that's my common factor. It's in both of them. So I'm going to factor out a negative xy plus 5. If I factor that out, what do I have left? I have a 2 on the outside and a y on the second term. All right, so I got my factor negative xy plus 5 times 2 plus y. All right, let's see if we can find that on the other page. So go come back, negative xy plus 5. So their answer choice was negative 2 minus y and xy plus 5. Okay, now both of these answers are correct. It's just if you're taking a multiple choice test, if we came up with this answer right here, but yet we wanted that one, it's pretty easy to manipulate that. The only thing different here, what did I do? I messed up. All right, you didn't see that. That was actually a minus y. Okay, so you see that if I come back here, if I factor out a negative 1, that's going to give me xy minus 5. And then if I multiply this by negative 1, that's going to, that's going to give me a negative 2 minus y. So all I did up here, instead of factoring out a 2, they factor out a negative 2. And instead of factoring out a y, they factor out a negative y. I'm not sure why they did it that way. I guess so they wouldn't have a negative on their x and y. Okay, but as I said earlier, both of these are the same. It's just if you're taking a multiple choice test, you want to match the one that they put out there. And that would have looked like this. Okay, so let's come back here. Page. Erase all of that. All right, let's see what we got. 6x squared minus 23x plus 20. All right. Now, remember, trinomial ax squared plus bx plus c. If I know what a, b, and c are, I can do my x factor table. Okay. So the a times c goes up at the top. The value of b goes at the bottom. So let's label what we got. A, that's the number in front of x squared. That's going to be 6. All right. B is going to be the number in front of x. Remember that negative sign. Negative 23. And then c is a number all by itself. So c equals 20. All right. Let's make our actual x factor table. A times c. I'm looking at 20 times 6. That is 120. And my b value is negative 23. Make sure you include that negative. All right, so in this particular case, I know in order to get a positive 120, I need to multiply either two positive numbers or two negative numbers. Only way to add up and get a negative 23 is to have two negative numbers. So here comes the fun part. Find the factors of 120. All right. Let me leave some space. We've got 1 and 120. 2 goes in 120 60 times. 3 and 40. 4 and 30. 5 and 24. 6 and 20. 7 will not go into 120. 8 and 15. 9 will not go into 120. 10 and 12. And then the only number between 10 and 12 is 11. 11 will not go into 120. So these are all of our factors. Again, we have that negative 23 that we are trying to add to. So all of these numbers over here need to be negatives. Negative, 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 negative. Which one of these adds up to a negative 23? Hopefully you said negative 8, negative 15. All right, watch what we're about to do. So just like we did previously when we had our leading coefficient, or a, to be 1. I'm going to write my negative 8 here and my negative 15. Okay, so if I was solving, factoring that, I could have just put x minus 8, x minus 15, but that would not be for this particular problem. What I am going to do is negative 8x plus a negative 15x gives me that negative, that negative 23 that I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm going to come down here. I'm going to rewrite my equation again. Ooh, didn't want to do that. What did I do? All right. So my equation was what? 6x squared minus, I know this is a lengthy process, but trust me, I'm putting in extra steps. That's why it looks so long. Okay, I'm going to rewrite because I know that negative 23x I can write as that negative 8x plus a negative 15x. So that's going to give me 6x squared minus 8x minus 15x plus 20. All right. 1 factor, 2 factors, 3 factors, 4 factors. When I have 4 factors, what did we say we do? We do grouping. All right. So let's get to grouping. We've got this and we've got that. Remember to include that negative sign. So that's negative 15x plus 20. All right. When we go to grouping, we've got 6x squared and a negative 8x. What are my factors? Let me write that a little neater. 6x squared. 6x squared. All right. So if I factor 6 down, I can do the factor tree or I cannot do it. I have 2 times 3, and then x squared means x appears twice. For negative 8, I have a negative 2 times 2 times 2. Because if I take 2 times 4 and then factor the 4 into 2 times 2, I've got 2 times 2 times 2 and the x. Let's find our common factors. We have a set of 2's. We have a set of x's. Okay? Now, for whatever reason, we're going to factor out a negative 2 this time so that we don't get into a situation like we had last time. All right, so I am going to factor out a negative 2. If I factor out a negative 2, I am left with what? A negative 3x plus 4. All right, I'm going to look at my, let's draw a line separating these. I'm going to look at my negative 15x and 20. So if I factor negative 15x, I have a negative 3 times 5 times x. And for 20, I have a 4 times 5. What's my common factor? Okay, let's see. I have the 5's. That's all I have. Okay? So when I go to factor out a 5, that's going to leave me with a negative 3x and a plus 4. Okay? Now I can find what goes in my parentheses just by looking at what is not circled. Okay? So once again, I have my common factor of negative 3x plus 4. And what do I have left? A negative 2. What did I did something wrong? I factored out a 2, and I had the 3x, and then I had the 4. Okay, I guess I didn't do anything wrong. Yes, I did. All right. That should have been a 2x. All right. Hopefully I didn't confuse anybody. I'm sure I did. All right, so what I was trying to say is I factored out a 2x. I had 2 there at first. It should have been 2x because I had a common factor of 2 and a common factor of x. And that left me with the 3x that came here and the 4 that came there. I factored out the negative 2x. Or did I factor out the 2? I don't know what I did. Okay, let's regroup. Okay, so anyway, we got a common factor of negative 3x plus 2. So that left me with, it should just be 2x. And then I have a plus 5 from over here. All right, so that should have given us negative 3x plus 4 times the negative 2x plus 5. If we multiply all that out, we should get our original starting value. So let's go back and see what we got on our answer sheet. Negative 3x plus 4, negative 2x plus 5. Okay, so we'll just change these signs. So we did the same thing we did earlier. Let's change the signs in each of these. All right, so there we have the 3x minus 4, the 2x minus 5. All right, so looking back at our answer. Okay, factor by grouping. That's what I need you to write at the top of your paper. 4 terms. Anytime I'm factoring, if I have 4 terms, I am going to factor that by grouping. What is grouping, you may ask? Glad you asked. So I have 4 terms. I'm going to group these into 2's. So let's just find an example. Let's look at F3. I guess we got room enough to do that here. So we've got negative 2xy. Let's not do that. All right, negative 2xy. All right, so we're going to do F3. So let's go, because they give us all of our answers. Let's see. Negative, I have negative 2 minus y at xy minus 5. Okay, they kind of switch those around, and we're going to finagle this a little bit. So let's go back, because right now this is looking like our answer. It just doesn't quite look like ours. Negative 2 minus y. All right, let's go back one. And for number 5, we can come back. That was F3. We can come back and write in F3 out here. Okay? All right, one more. Did I stop the timer? Okay, one more, and then we can blank. Hopefully we didn't get. All right, so now, last one, general trinomials. Remember trinomials? A couple of things. This is what I need you to write at the top of your paper. We are still doing that x bar. Yeah. Write that a little bigger. We're still writing that x bar. where we have AC up at the top and B at the bottom. Okay. This particular case, A, our leading coefficient, is not 1. Okay. This is going to require a little bit more work, but it's all about what we've done before. So let's look and see. Let's work this one. We've got, what is, you can barely see that. Okay. We've got 6x squared minus 23x plus 20. All right. So let's go back to all right. So and look at our answer choices over here. And we got 2x minus 5, 3x minus 4. All right. So it looks like they did not factor out any of the negatives. 2x minus 5, 3x minus 4. But I'm not going to record again. So there's our answer, 2x minus 5, 3x minus 4. So for number 2, that's going to be C3. So we can write C3. All right. Hopefully that made a little bit of sense. If I confuse you on this problem, just ask me on Friday or whenever you see me, and we'll revisit it. Just he's mixed up again. I know I kind of bumbled this one. In case, this is what your paper should look like. I asked you to write that X factor where we have the AC over B. So make sure you have that written on your paper somewhere. You do want to show that X bar. I mentioned that when we did the where the leading coefficient was 1. We want to show it on that one also. So here's when we did our examples. That's what our values should have been for each of these. And you can look and check and see. So we got the A9, the C5, the whatever that is. I guess that's G5. Okay. And then for our second one, when we were doing grouping, make sure that you've written 4 terms up at the top of your paper. We do want you to show the work so we can see how you grouped. And that's how we did that problem. Those should be the notes that you wrote down. Boom, boom, boom. So we grouped it into 2s. And then we factored out, we had x, y minus 5 as a common factor. And that left us with negative 2 minus y. Very good. And then finally, when we did the general trinomials where the leading coefficient was not 1, if we expand that out, we can probably, actually, let's write that on there somewhere. A is not 1. Okay? So notice this right here. We have the X and grouping. So when we have a general trinomial where the leading coefficient is not 1, we're going to simply do the X factor, which was right here. And then that gives us 4 terms, which now we do grouping. So that's what they mean when they say X and grouping. Okay? And then we see that our answer, well, they crossed out the answer there and just wrote their answer down there where they were showing. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Like I said, bring questions back to me on Friday if this just totally confused you. It's not my intent. I hope it helped. Thanks so much. Study hard. See you Friday. Remember, this thing is due next Friday on the 13th.